welcome back. Buckle up, because today we're going deep on Bitcoin.
Oh, Bitcoin.
I think you guys are really going to want to hear this one, especially with, the markets being kind of crazy lately.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of you have been asking us to look into what's next for Bitcoin.
Yeah, what is next?
Well, Robert Kiyosaki just dropped this prediction,
okay.
and you are not going to believe this one.
I'm ready.
He's connecting Bitcoin to something you wouldn't normally even think about. It's all about former President Trump's tariffs.
Wow, that's an interesting connection.
So we're diving into this article from the Crypto Times today. It's called Robert Kiyosaki Predicts Bitcoin Crash Due to Trump Tariffs.
Okay,
And let me tell you, it is intense.
I bet. So Kiyosaki, he's the rich dad, poor dad guy, right?
Yeah.
He's got a lot of pull in the investing world.
Oh, yeah.
So when he says something like this, people definitely listen.
Oh, they listen. He's saying Bitcoin, gold, silver, all headed for a crash. And he's pinning it all on the return of those Trump tariffs, the ones set to kick back in on February 1st, 2025.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
he's saying that these tariffs are going to make our debt problems even worse, like globally.
Globally, yeah.
And that's going to put a ton of pressure on all sorts of assets, including Bitcoin.
Now, hold on. Help me understand this.
Yeah.
I thought tariffs mainly hit, physical goods.
Right.
How does that translate to a digital asset like Bitcoin?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
It all boils down to how investors feel and how global markets react when the economy feels shaky,
Right.
So if tariffs lead to higher prices and slower economic growth, investors could get spooked.
Right.
And then they might pull out of riskier assets, like Bitcoin, and just flock to the so-called safe havens,
Like what?
like government bonds or even cash.
So it's not that tariffs are directly impacting Bitcoin's technology or how it works,
Yeah,
but the fear that they create, that's what could trigger a sell-off.
exactly. See, Bitcoin thrives on confidence and widespread adoption. When that confidence wavers, its price can get
Oh, I bet.
super sensitive.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So where does Bitcoin stand right now, with all this crash talk going around?
Good question. Well, the article says it's currently at $102,360,
Okay.
down 2% on the day.
Okay.
And it's been kind of bouncing between $101,000 and $106,000.
The article just says fluctuating, but come on, there's got to be more to it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you always say there's a whole psychology behind those price swings.
Oh, for sure. Those numbers, those price points, they aren't random.
Okay.
They represent these key support and resistance levels.
Okay, now you're talking my language.
Think of them as like battle lines in the market.
Okay, I like it. I'm picturing a battlefield now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So at $101,000,
Yeah.
we're seeing strong buying support.
Mhm.
What that means is there are enough buyers jumping in at that price
Okay.
to keep it from falling further.
So-
Then on the flip side, at $106,000,
yeah.
that's acting as a resistance level.
Okay.
Sellers are more active up there, so it prevents the price from going any higher.
So it's this psychological tug of war between people who think Bitcoin's going to drop further and those who are like, no, it's going up.
Exactly. And that's where news like this, Kiyosaki's prediction, that comes in and kind of
Shakes things up.
shakes things up, injects fear,
Yeah.
and maybe pushes more people to the selling side.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I'm starting to see how this all connects. But okay, Kiyosaki's not the only one out there, right?
right.
The article also mentioned this other analyst, Arthur Hayes,
Okay.
and he is painting an even wilder picture.
Oh,
Yeah.
What's he saying?
He's predicting a mini financial crisis that could send Bitcoin plummeting to $70,000.
Wow. Okay.
But here's the twist.
Okay.
He then sees it skyrocketing to $250,000.
Wow. That's
Wow.
a big swing.
Huge drop, massive rebound. Are these guys even looking at the same data?
Well, it's fascinating how different their predictions are, in terms of how low they think it'll go.
Yeah.
But they both seem to agree on the ultimate direction.
So it's more about how low it goes, but they both think there's a bounce back.
It seems that way. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got those two, and then we've got Glassnode.
Okay.
They're a blockchain analytics firm. They're adding another layer to this whole thing, right?
Right.
They're talking about this price cluster for Bitcoin
Okay.
between $94,000 and $101,000.
Right.
And they're saying $98,000 is a super important support level.
Oh, interesting.
What makes a price cluster so important?
So a price cluster is basically a range
Okay.
where historically a lot of Bitcoin has been bought and sold.
Okay.
It shows a level where a lot of investors feel comfy holding on to their Bitcoin.
Okay.
So if that support breaks,
Uh-oh.
it could mean a further loss of confidence,
Okay.
and that could potentially trigger a cascade of selling.
Oh, wow, like a domino effect.
Precisely. That's why these support and resistance levels are watched so closely by, traders and analysts.
I bet.
They provide clues about where the market might go next.
This is getting pretty intense.
It is.
We've got conflicting predictions, we've got these crucial support levels, and then the whole threat of these tariffs looming.
Yeah.
Where do we even go from here?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, good thing we've got more deep dive to do.
That's right. We'll be right back.
Stick with us. Welcome back, folks.
All right. So, before we jumped out of there, we were talking about how Kiyosaki sees this potential crash as like a buying opportunity.
Yeah, buy low, right?
Yeah, but is he just talking the talk? Is he actually putting his money where his mouth is? What's his game plan?
Well, the article doesn't lay out like his full investment strategy or anything.
Okay.
But it does make an interesting point.
Yeah.
Remember how Kiyosaki mentioned gold and silver?
Yeah.
Right. Like alongside Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah, he predicted they'd crash too because of the tariffs, right?
Right. And that's important because it shows he's not just betting on Bitcoin.
Oh, he's diversifying.
Yeah. Even within the assets he thinks are going to be hit by this like economic storm,
So he's predicting a crash across multiple asset classes.
Right.
But he's still kind of bullish in the long run.
Yeah, it's definitely a contrarian approach.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, most people would be like freaking out if they heard crash.
Yeah.
But he sees it as a chance to get in cheap,
Buy low, sell high.
Exactly. He's looking for those diamonds in the rough.
Yeah. I think that's a key takeaway for our listeners here.
Yeah.
A crash isn't necessarily the end of the world.
No, not at all.
It can create these opportunities for those who are, prepared and know what to look for.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's all about changing your perspective,
Yeah.
Don't let fear control your actions.
Uh-huh.
Kiyosaki, he believes in the long-term value of these assets,
Right.
Bitcoin, gold, silver.
Yeah.
Even if they go through some wild swings in the short term.
So it's not just about trying to time the market perfectly.
Yeah.
It's about actually truly believing in what you're investing in.
Right.
Okay, I'm starting to get it, but let's bring it back to Bitcoin specifically.
Okay.
What makes it a potentially good buy, even with this whole crash thing looming over it?
Well, historically speaking, Bitcoin's shown it's pretty resilient, It's bounced back from big dips before and often comes back even stronger.
Okay.
A lot of people see it as a hedge against, traditional financial systems, especially when things are uncertain.
Right. So even if those tariffs cause like a wider economic mess, Bitcoin being decentralized could make it a safe haven, kind of like gold.
That's the digital gold narrative, right?
Yeah.
That's what keeps attracting investors.
Yeah.
And then there's the limited supply factor, too.
Right.
Only 21 million Bitcoins ever. And that scarcity, can really boost demand, especially if more people start seeing it as a way to store value when times are tough.
But hold on, even if Bitcoin has bounced back before, can we be sure it'll do it again?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Past
performance doesn't guarantee future results.
You're absolutely right. There are no guarantees in investing.
Right.
Especially with something as volatile as Bitcoin.
Totally.
And then there's the whole regulatory landscape.
Oh, right. We haven't even touched on that.
Yeah, that's constantly changing.
Yeah.
And that can have a huge impact on Bitcoin's price.
I bet. And I imagine that just adds another layer of like uncertainty to this whole equation, right?
Absolutely.
Governments could crack down on crypto, or even just the threat of new regulations could scare investors away.
It's true. Regulatory uncertainty can be just as impactful as actual regulations.
Wow.
We've seen it happen before.
Yeah.
Just a rumor about government intervention can trigger massive sell-offs in the crypto market.
So even if you really believe in Bitcoin's long-term potential, it's super important to acknowledge the risks. And the regulatory stuff is definitely a big one.
Absolutely. It's something any potential investor needs to think about very carefully.
As we're talking about all this, I'm realizing this isn't just a Bitcoin and tariff story.
Right.
It's about understanding how all these different factors, debt, investor psychology, government policies, they all come together to create these massive market trends.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that investing isn't just about picking the right stock or whatever. It's about understanding the bigger picture.
Totally.
assessing the risks,
Yeah.
and making smart decisions based on your own situation.
And speaking of the bigger picture,
Yeah,
we're talking about a potential market crash here.
right.
Even if some investors see it as like a buy the dip moment,
Yeah,
it's going to have real consequences for the whole economy,
Yeah.
right?
absolutely. A big market downturn can have ripple effects everywhere.
Yeah.
Businesses, jobs, consumer confidence,
Yeah.
serious stuff.
Which is why it's so important to stay informed, keep up with these developments.
For sure.
Even if you're not a Bitcoin investor, understanding these market dynamics,
Yeah,
it can give you really valuable insights into how the financial world works.
it's true. Knowledge is power,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to navigating this crazy economy we've got.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
Kiyosaki's predictions, Bitcoin's like resilience, the impact of tariffs, the regulatory landscape.
A lot.
But I feel like there's still more to unpack,
Yeah.
Kiyosaki mentioned other assets beyond Bitcoin, gold, silver that could be affected by this crash.
Right. If he's predicting a wider crash,
Yeah.
it's worth looking at what else might be impacted.
Right.
And, even more importantly, could there be some unexpected winners in all this?
Ah, that's the question, right?
Yeah.
If some things go down, others got to go up.
That's the interesting part.
Yeah.
There are always opportunities, even when things are looking bad.
Yeah.
It's just about finding them.
I like it.
And that's what we're going to get into next.
All right.
Stay tuned for part 3, folks.
We'll be right back. Okay, we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into Bitcoin, tariffs, and this whole market crash situation.
Time for the grand finale.
Yeah, I'm really curious to explore, what else might be caught in the crossfire if Kiyosaki's right.
Yeah, let's zoom out. Big picture time.
Okay.
Remember, his main argument is that, all this debt made worse by the tariffs, that's going to be what kicks off the crash.
Yeah, it's like the whole system is drowning in debt, and those tariffs are,
The tipping point.
the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Exactly. And when you think about it,
Yeah.
debt is everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Governments, companies, people, everyone's using borrowed money to some extent.
It's true.
If the cost of all that debt suddenly shoots up,
Because of the economy going haywire?
yeah, it could trigger this chain reaction of defaults and just like a total loss of confidence in the system.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah,
So then everyone panics.
right.
Where do they run? Where do they put their money?
Classic flight to safety.
Okay.
They'll pull out of risky stuff like stocks,
Yeah.
pile into things like government bonds, what's seen as more stable.
But wouldn't that drive up the price of those safe haven assets then?
Exactly.
So even in a crash, some investments could actually do well.
That's the thing about markets.
Yeah,
There are always winners and losers, no matter what's happening.
that's a good point.
And that's what makes Kiyosaki's view so interesting.
Okay.
He's basically saying, don't freak out. Look for the opportunities that pop up when everyone else is losing their minds.
So Bitcoin, gold, silver, they might take a hit at first,
Right.
but there could be other things that actually do well in this environment.
Potentially, yeah, maybe some things we wouldn't even expect.
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It is, you can't predict for sure, but we can use Kiyosaki's thinking to kind of guide us, right?
Yeah, okay.
He's pointing at rising debt, an unstable economy, and investors getting spooked. What kind of assets would thrive under those conditions?
Okay, let me think. Give our listeners something to chew on here.
Oh, no,
Comes to mind.
Well, we might see people getting interested in alternative currencies again,
Okay.
or assets that are seen as outside the traditional system.
Like what?
Think, cryptocurrencies beyond Bitcoin,
Okay.
maybe even precious metals beyond just gold and silver.
So even within alternative investments, diversification is still important.
Absolutely. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. No.
Yeah, good advice.
Another thing to think about is real estate.
Okay, real estate? Interesting.
Kiyosaki is a big fan of real estate,
I know he is.
especially when the economy's a mess.
But wouldn't rising interest rates make it harder to afford real estate?
That's true. Higher interest rates make borrowing more expensive. But remember, we're talking about a potential crash here.
Right.
Property values could drop a lot.
Okay.
That could be a chance for investors with cash to buy low.
Ah, there's that buy low philosophy again.
Exactly.
Interesting. Any other potential winners we should be thinking about?
This might sound weird,
Okay.
but some businesses could actually do really well in a downturn.
Okay.
Companies that offer like essential stuff
Mhm.
or things people need even when money is tight.
Like necessities.
Yeah, they might see more demand as everyone starts watching their spending.
Right. People still got to eat. They still need healthcare.
Exactly.
It's all about figuring out which sectors are, like, tougher.
More resilient.
Yeah. Or might even benefit from how consumers change their behavior.
Exactly. Sometimes the companies that look the most vulnerable
Uh-huh.
are actually the ones with the strongest foundation.
This has been quite the roller coaster ride.
It has.
We started with Bitcoin and tariffs, but we ended up talking about so much more.
We-
Debt, psychology, how global markets are all connected, even potential winners in a crash.
It's all connected.
Yeah, it really shows that investing isn't just about isolated events.
Yep.
It's about understanding the bigger picture, knowing that markets go up and down,
Cycles.
and being ready for anything.
Being prepared, that's key.
So what's the big takeaway for our listeners?
Don't panic. Stay informed. Think for yourselves. And remember, even if there's a crash,
Yeah,
there are opportunities out there for those who are ready to find them.
great advice. Thanks for walking us through all this.
Happy to do it.
It's been really insightful.
Glad you think so.
And to all of you listening, thanks for joining us on another deep dive. We'll see you next time.